7 tricks I know now that I wish I knew 5 years ago, because these tricks have made my journey a lot easier. If you're new to aquascaping or even fish keeping, this video should be helpful. And if you're not new, well, then maybe these tricks can make your journey a bit easier too. Number 1. Stop drinking your aquarium water. How do you change your aquarium water? Do you use a water pump? Or maybe a hose with some water in it? However you do it, a good water change system is undoubtedly essential for anyone in this hobby. The issue I'm seeing is that a lot of us use this little trick to get the water flowing, myself included. This is not good for you. Aquarium water is full of chemicals, fish waste, and sometimes there could even be some parasites and bacteria. So instead of drinking your water, let me show you something really simple that you can do. Grab a filter hose and submerge one side in the aquarium water while keeping the other side out of the tank. Then use your thumb to close the filter hose opening. Without releasing the opening, begin removing the hose from the water until you only have a small section left inside the aquarium. At that point, release your thumb from the opening and the water will start to flow out. Number 2. Reducing the filter hose size without an adapter. When you buy a new filter, it comes with its own hoses. But I've noticed these hoses are usually green or black, and personally, I don't like the way they look. I prefer clear hoses. I think they look way better. But what do you do if your new filter's inlet and outlet are too big for the hoses that you currently have? If you buy bigger hoses, then you're probably gonna have to buy bigger lily pipes as well. Or you might end up buying hose adapters to make it work somehow. Before you do all that, let me show you this little trick. It's very simple. Cut a couple of pieces from the hoses that come with the filter and attach that to the inlet and outlet. Then push the smaller hose into those pieces. It might look like it's not secure, but believe me, it won't leak. Number 3. Paper towel and glue for hose tabs. Hose tabs are the greatest thing ever. They make filter cleaning and overall filter maintenance a lot easier. Without them, you will have to unhook your hoses from the filter every time you needed to clean them. It's a lot of work. Now, pressure-proofed hose tabs can be expensive, so instead I get these ones. They are not pressure-proofed, but they do the job just right. The downside is that since they are not pressure-proofed, after a while, these little tabs right here break and they start to leak. But don't worry, I have the perfect fix for you. When you encounter this issue, get a piece of paper towel and place it right where the broken tab is. Press the whole tab tight and apply some crazy glue to the paper towel. It will never leak again. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, you might like other videos in the channel. So remember to like and subscribe for more weekly content just like this. Number 4. Bristle brush for brown algae. Not only brown algae, really any type of long string algae can be removed with this kind of brush. But I want to focus on brown algae because it's the one that you usually get when you first set up an aquarium. And it's actually harmless. With other algae types, removing it by hand, it's kind of pointless because it's just gonna keep growing back. You want to find the cause and fix that. But with brown algae, most of the time, it will go away by itself after a few weeks, once the tank is balanced. If you want your aquarium to look good before that process is completed, use one of these. Place them at the end of the string and roll them all the way down. You can remove most of the algae in the tank using this method. It's quite impressive how good of a job they do. Number 5. Metal brush for green spot algae. Since we're on the topic of algae, let's talk about green spot algae. Even in a well-established aquarium, you might get this type of algae from time to time. It's not very noticeable in small amounts, and you can remove most of it with an algae scraper. However, when it starts attaching to hardscape, it can be really annoying because you can't remove it with an algae scraper if it's in the rocks. And if CO2 or phosphate levels are low in your aquarium, it can start to accumulate. To complicate things even more, most algae eaters will ignore it. That's why these metal brushes come in handy. You can remove most of the algae from the hardscape with them. Just make sure to do a water change after you scrape the rocks. The mineral content can get quite high. Number 6. Turning on the air pump while doing a water change. I like to have air pumps for all my tanks so that I can turn them on at night when plants stop producing oxygen. If you also have air pumps for your tanks, I recommend you turn them on during water changes as well. Especially if you have a reservoir tank where you keep all your filtered water, because if the water in the tank sits there for too long, it could get oxygen depleted. Then you change your water, you take out a bunch of water that is well oxygenated because of your plants, and introduce new water that has barely any oxygen in it. I'm sure you see how that can be an issue for your fish, and it could be particularly bad if you have CO2 injections. If this is your case, turning the air pump during water changes can make a huge difference. It helps recover some of that oxygen that was lost. Number 7. Goldfish and plants. I've always been afraid of goldfish and planted tanks. I love the way they look, but they have a reputation of eating plants, and I mean eating any plant. So I've never been able to keep any of them in my aquariums. Just this weekend, some friends wanted to get rid of a huge aquarium that they had. I took the aquarium and all the fish they had in it, and you guessed it, now I have a bunch of goldfish. I might have to give a few of them to a pet shop, I'm not really sure yet. But for now, I've been keeping them in this tank until I can clean the bigger one and get it set up. So I tried a little experiment. I put some anubias in the aquarium to see if they would eat them, because anubias leaves are pretty tough. To my surprise, after a couple of days, the anubias are intact. I don't really know if this will work or not, but I wish I've tried this a long time ago. Those were 7 tricks that I wish I knew 5 years ago. Please let me know in the comments what are some tricks that you wish you knew when you started this hobby.